What is up, everybody? Welcome into Week 16 Fantasy Football AMA start sits, pickups for next week, Dynasty stuff. This is where we're at. Week 16, semifinal week. So we had a very fantastic game last night. I'm sure some of you guys might have already been impacted positively or negatively based on some of the performances last night. But we're here to help you guys get to that championship week next week. But John, how's it going, man? You ready for Christmas?
I'm ready for Christmas. I'm ready for the regular season to be over. Just kind of grinding my way through the fantasy playoffs here, and hope to get some subscribers, some wins this weekend. And just a quick note on the Discord AMA I did yesterday. We had a chat about Demarcus Robinson, and one of the guys, subscribers in the chat, asked about him versus Tutu Atwell. With Tutu Atwell back, how much does that impact Demarcus Robinson? I took another look at it. And Demarcus Robinson's snaps had really increased prior to the Tutu Atwell injury. And so I bumped him up in the rankings. The guy started him and got, I think, 6 for 84 and a touchdown out of it. So a success story. Hopefully that manager subscriber goes on and gets a win in the semis. But when you're down to starting Demarcus Robinson, you're down. It worked.
It's just 1 week. You just gotta survive 1 week and continue to do that.
You just gotta beat one other team.
Exactly. So let's see what we can do. If you guys got any questions, you can drop it down. Genji was in the chat prior to the stream going live. He said he got 41 from CMC in the first round, 33 from Puka in the semis. Why fantasy variants must you give me your toughest battle? So, I mean, if you beat CMC last week,
you can do it.
Say you could do it again against Puka this week with, what was that, 8 fewer points? So you have 8 points less that you have to make up for. But Puka was phenomenal last night, as was a lot of people like Robinson. You said Kyron, Stafford, Olave got there without the touchdown. It was a good night. But Shaheed. Genji's asking, Shaheed got there. I don't know if anybody started Shaheed. I think I had him mad if you.
I had him ahead of Demarcus Robinson, but Shaheed was kind of a disappointment last week, and I thought maybe with Olave back, some of the pressure would be off, and he'd have a good game. He did. I had him at 44 in half PPR.
Nice. But how do we feel about these wide receivers, Paulsen? Genji's asking Deontay or Dontavian Wicks in a full PPR league. A very interesting question. Wicks, of course, had a phenomenal week last week and is kind of coming up here, but no Christian Watson, maybe no Jaden Reed potentially. I think I might play Wicks.
You might go with Wicks here over your boy Deontay. I think I still lean Deontay. He's had I know Mason Rudolph is at quarterback. Maybe you can tell us how bad is Mason Rudolph?
Bad. He's very bad.
I would say, okay, look at 4 weeks for Deontay: 4 for 50, 4 for 33 and a touchdown, 3 for 57 and a touchdown, 4 for 62 and a touchdown. It's unusual for him, obviously, to score that many touchdowns in a row, so he might be due for a non-touchdown game, but the matchup is pretty good against Cincinnati. They're 25th in adjusted fantasy points allowed to receivers. I do like Dontavian Wicks as a sleepy start, but this game environment with the Panthers, I'm not very bullish on it. The Panthers are only giving up 100. I think it was 174. I want to confirm that. Yeah, 174 passing yards per game. They have given up 17 touchdowns in 14 games, but that's not very much. They've been one of the bad matchups for receivers. So we know Deontay's good. I know the quarterback is not great there, but the matchup's pretty good. I've got Dontavian Wicks in PPR at 40, and I've got Deontay at 28. They're separated by about 2 points. And I do think Wicks will have a kind of a sneaky game, but I don't think that Jordan Love is going to have a lot of passing yards in this one.
Coming from the Packers fan, Deontay maybe just a little bit more trustworthy is what we're thinking.
Well, he's also we know he's great.
True.
Like he gets open. So, and quarterbacks tend to like to throw to players that are open. Most do. Most do.
Most do. Rudolph was the quarterback for Deontay during his rookie season as well too. So maybe they kind of get back into that kind of dynamic, and hopefully, listen, I'm all here for Deontay. I just do not like the Steelers quarterbacks at all. Wowzers, full PPR, Amari Cooper or Cortland Sutton. And then he also has a defensive question between Eagles, Broncos, and Bears. But we can address the wide receiver one first. Amari Cooper or Cortland Sutton this week for you, Paulsen, in a full PPR league?
For me, it's Cooper. It's not by a whole lot. He's at 21 in my PPR rankings. Cortland Sutton's at 24. Obviously, Cortland Sutton's been the only trustworthy pass catcher for the Broncos all year, really, right? So he's a solid start. The Patriots are 23rd in adjusted fantasy points allowed to receivers, but Cooper's matchup's even better. The Texans are 29th in that metric. The secondary is down pretty bad. And I think the thing that's really kind of putting just some inside baseball is that since Flacco's taken over, they've gone so pass heavy that I have to, when I run my numbers, it's basing it on year-to-date numbers for a lot of the teams, which is fine for most cases. But for the Browns, I have to redo it manually to account for Joe Flacco. I mean, he never checks into the run play. I don't think he's attempted at least 44.3 passes per game right now, and I think it's at least 44 in 3 straight games. So his volume's been there, and that really boosts Cooper. So I think Flacco over looks good. I think he's at I forget what the number was, but it was 244 or something like that. I'm closer to 300 yards. I think against Houston. I mean, I'd feel a lot better if CJ Stroud were playing and we know we were going to get pushback from the Texans. But I still think with Cleveland going so pass heavy that Cooper's the play here against Houston.
Yeah, I agree with that one as well too. And then how do we feel about the defenses? Eagles, Broncos, and Bears.
You have 3 good options there, but as I ran the numbers, the Eagles came in as my number 1 defense. Very low expected points allowed. The Bears have been playing really well as well. They're top 11 this week, and then the other one is the Broncos, who are at 4. But I probably would go with the Eagles against DeVito at home. It's just a don't overthink it type of a game. But all 3 are pretty good options.
Yeah, I think this is the Eagles one for me as well too. I don't want to say kind of like a bounce back game, but I just feel like they're kind of due for a solid performance, and I think a divisional matchup against the Giants, I think this will end up being a very skewed game in the Eagles' favor.
Coming off a line of a loss, and the Giants' offensive line is kind of suspect. I mean, the Packers weren't able to do it, but I think the Eagles will get to DeVito a few times.
Yep.
He'll probably be in a position where he has to throw. So, yeah, I like the Eagles.
Mike Gonzalez, Gonzo, says he says that he needs 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 1 tight end, and 2 flexes. He apologized in the first message, said for the long one, but he really needs some fresh eyes on this one, and we've been on point all year. So we got a plethora of players that we got to go through. This is a full PPR league and also 0.25 points per carry to take into consideration for the running backs here. ETN, Pollard, DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman, Hawkinson, Laporta. We need 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 2 flexes. All right. So do you want to just go one by one? We need 1 running back out of ETN and Pollard. And I think I'm going ETN.
All right. So there's 5 spots. I'm just saying 5 spots, and we got 7 players. I have Pollard ahead of ETN, so that's not
interesting.
However, caveat, it sounds like Trevor Lawrence might be able to play now. So things might change. If you're a subscriber, Mike, be sure to stay, tuned with the projections. But right now, the Jaguars' expected points are lower, and all their stats are lower because they're expecting CJ Beathard to play. So if it is Lawrence, then that could bump him up. But I've got right now ETN at about 17, Pollard at 10. But let me look at PPR here.
Pollard's at 9 and ETN's at 16.
So not a whole lot of difference.
And they're both projected for the same number of rush attempts. So the point per carry kind of gets negated there.
Yeah, I mean, I lean Pollard, but with that caveat.
Okay. Then we got a wide receiver out of. I mean, I'm fine with both of them. Honestly, Pollard might end up being one of my flexes anyway.
Right.
I lean ETN over Pollard, I think, as the one running back, but Pollard probably ends up being one of my first choices for flexes. But a wide receiver, DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman. We just got to pick one of them.
So we have a study on the site, and I believe it was. Let me double check this. Oh yeah, Adam Hutchinson before he left updated it. But let me see if running backs are the same way. They're a little bit different. Receivers is like there was 66 instances of receivers with a concussion, and in week one, if they didn't miss a week, they saw a 29% drop in their average production the week after the concussion. So that's just a little bit of a concern, I think, with Pittman. So he'd be the one of these three receivers that I would probably rule out just this week. For that reason, I think DJ Moore's got a great setup. I just took the over on his yardage at Prize Picks. And some of that has to do with the fact that Arizona doesn't blitz, and Justin Fields has actually been really good with no pressure. So Moore really is shaping up to have a nice day. And DK Metcalf has a nice matchup against Tennessee, but we have to only pick one of these receivers right now. So I would go with Moore as my one receiver, and right now Pollard is my one running back.
Moore is my wide receiver as well. So incongruence there. Tight end between Hawk and Laporta. Unbelievable, the choices that you have here.
Yeah,
it
the
almost
choices you have to make.
Feel like you don't have bad decisions. It's just
that's why he's saying sorry, LOL at the start of this. I think.
Yeah, I think I go Hawkinson.
I do too. I lean him. I lean his way. It's 14.2 to 13.8 in the projections. But I think the key is now is picking these two flexes, right?
Right. And I think Pollard is one of them for me. Is ETN one for you? That'll kind of make it easy.
Yeah, let me see.
We'll play.
This is a lot of work here to figure this out. All right, so ETN is at 26. He probably will be one of the flexes. I would hate to sit Laporta, but he's at 53. And I would hate to sit Metcalf. He's at 37. So this would be a sit for me. Sit Pittman and sit Laporta.
I think that's it. We took different routes to get there, but we both came up with kind of the same.
Came up with the same because of the flexes. But I just mentioned on the Laporta, the one red flag that, I mean, he's obviously been fantastic this week or this year. And I think, this game is, I mean, I got him at 4 in PPR at tight end, but the Vikings are number 4 in the league in tight end adjusted fantasy points allowed. So they're a little bit, I mean, they're a top 5 unit. Detroit is 10th. So I do think this will be kind of this should be a high scoring game, and it's a nice friendly environment there, but I hate to sit them, but you're really deciding between sitting like Laporta or DK Metcalf. And, Metcalf's got a good,
the wide receiver.
Yeah.
Better matchup.
Metcalf's got a nice matchup.
Yeah. Hope that helps you out, Gonzo, and hopefully we see you next week for championship decisions. What do we do with Bryce Young? I'm assuming this is on the Dynasty side. I would love to sell him. And maybe if you can sell him and get a re-roll on a quarterback this year, that would be great. Because I don't really see that situation in Carolina improving all too much. And he's currently on the list of rookie quarterbacks with over 300 pass attempts to throw for under 12 passing touchdowns. And since 2000, that list is super not friendly to continued success. There's like Trevor Lawrence and Josh Allen are the only 2 real hits on that list, but it includes guys like Zach Wilson, Kenny Pickett, Mark Sanchez. Mitch Trubisky is on that list. That's, I don't know if you want to call that success if he hadn't Chicago, bunch of other quarterbacks that do not show success as rookies. And then that just kind of inhibits them going forward. And Carolina, without a first round pick this year, they do have obviously they'll have 201 and 301 to work with to add to the offensive side and any salary cap stuff. But I'm kind of out on Bryce Young from a dynasty perspective.
Can I ask you a couple? I pull up the DLF rankings whenever I see these questions.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a couple? So would you rather have Bryce Young or Jordan Love?
Love.
Would you rather have Bryce Young or Will Levis? Or is it Levis?
Levis.
Levis.
I think I'd probably lean Levis because I don't really want either of them, but
How about Sam Howell?
Howell.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, you've got Bryce Young ranked really low then in your mental rankings.
Yes, I do.
He's got to be in the 20s.
I'll still take Cousins. I'll take Rodgers. Deshaun Watson.
Oof.
Yeah.
All right.
That's where I'm at. Adam said, thank you to whoever answered my Tyjae Spears for Jameson Williams trade. That was me. This is Dynasty. He's trading away Williams for Tyjae, who are you in the boat? Do you kind of expect Tyjae to be the starter next year for Tennessee? Is Henry gone?
I mean, it's probably time for Henry to move on. I mean, it depends on how Tennessee sort of looks at their short-term future. Are they thinking that they're going to compete in the next 2 or 3 years? Is he a free agent at this point?
Henry is, yeah.
Then I would think they would probably not want to break the bank to re-sign him, right?
Right.
Just with the way, I mean, he is pretty, I mean, if you have any sort of blocking, like a decent offensive line, he is still a beast.
Yes, he is.
But he probably is a better fit as, like a $5 million a year type back for a contender, I would think, with a good offensive line, as opposed to, I don't see Tennessee competing for a Super Bowl anytime soon.
I likened it to Rachaad White this time last year as we were looking ahead to Fournette potentially being a cap casualty. And if Rachaad White were to get the majority of the work as the RB1, Spears can do the exact same thing. I feel like they're pretty similar players. So and Spears has been really great in the opportunity that he's had so far. So I'm all on board buying Spears now before anything were to happen in the offseason for Dynasty.
Yeah, he's looked good. But he said, so did he get Spears or did he trade away Spears?
He got Spears. He traded away JMO for Tyjae. Yep. Kyrus says in a PPR league, needs a decision between DeAndre Hopkins, DeAndre Swift, Amari Cooper, and Nico Collins. I'm assuming we're just picking one of these guys in a full PPR league. I feel like we can lean back to what we said at the what you were talking about at the beginning with Amari and just the pure volume that he gets from Joe Flacco. Hopkins is an upside play with Levis, but he's been wildly inconsistent. Swift's usage is up in the air. Nico, first week back, probably not having Stroud either. Is this just Amari again?
I have Swift at 42 in the flex rankings. Amari at 51. At least make sure this is PPR. Yeah.
I would love to play Swift. I just don't know if he's super trustworthy.
I don't think he's super trustworthy, but he should get you, 100 total yards, maybe a few catches, and there's a chance he scores a touchdown. Although that's the knock on him right now, is that he's being vultured by his quarterback,
Get tackled on the one.
Yeah, all the time. So I think for me, it's between those two, Cooper and Swift. Nico, I'd feel a lot better about him if Stroud were playing. He's at 70 in the flex rankings. And then Hopkins, I moved him down yesterday. He's at 62. If you just look at his year-to-date distributions, he would be higher. But you mentioned that with Levis, he's been better. He has, but he's got Tannehill this week, and he was a lot worse with Tannehill prior to the quarterback change. So I moved him down. I think he's dicey as a dicey wide receiver, high-end wide receiver 3, low-end wide receiver 2 this week. I have him with like Lockett and Deontay Johnson, Drake London, and those guys.
Right.
So I think I would lean Swift, and I think that if you wanted to play a receiver for upside or something, then Cooper is the best play of that group. Nico could have a good game. We just don't know what's going to happen with Davis Mills.
And we just got an FLA notification saying that CJ Stroud is not practicing and not playing still.
Yeah, he's not going to.
So just to confirm that. I lean Cooper, but I don't have a problem with Swift. Like I would love to choose Swift as my number one choice here. I don't know. Cooper just feels safer. E Beats with the $5 super chat. Thank you so much for the support and for the super chat. He says, would it be safe to play the Bears defense and Trey McBride? So how do you feel about kind of conflicting an offensive player with the matchup against the defense that you are starting? Do you have any qualms about that?
I don't really worry about it too much. McBride could have he could have 10 for 100 and they not score a touchdown, and it doesn't really affect the Bears defense too negatively. Like, I don't worry about these correlations a whole lot unless I'm trying to win a GPP, at Yahoo or FanDuel or something. So just trying to win my weekly matchup, I just play my best plays and hope that it works out. I don't worry too much about this correlation.
Yeah, I think when you have a matchup like the Bears do against a rather poor offense in Arizona, like you said, like McBride can get there from a PPR standpoint without scoring, especially with Hollywood out too. Like, of these two people, McBride is for sure the play. Like, I would not sit McBride to play the Bears defense. I think if anything, it would be what would be your other options at defense if one of them makes more sense, But yeah, I don't really have any issues whatsoever with opposing the defense against one of my players, unless it was like you have Tyreek and you're playing the defense against Miami or something like that. That might be a different story.
I wanted to mention one more thing on Nico because we do have that data from last year with Davis Mills.
Yeah.
And on 47 targets, he had 428 catches for 402 yards and 1 touchdown, which is a fairly good 8.55 yards per attempt to him. He only had the 1 touchdown, which is kind of funny, but that's a high yards per attempt when you're looking at Davis Mills as a 6.5 YPA guy last year. So he does seem to have a pretty good rapport with Nico. I just wanted to mention that.
I feel like Mills is a inaccurate gunslinger. That's why his YPA is low, because he's not converting those throws into
61. Yeah, and his passes last year, 61% completion, 3,100 yards, 6.5 yards per attempt, 17 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. So he throws a lot of picks.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily bad for your receivers. This could be an interesting game in terms of some garbage time for Houston, and if Cleveland starts to score really well, then Houston's going to have to open it up. Anyway, sorry, I just wanted to mention that about Nico.
You're still playing Amari over Nico, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just might move Nico up a bit because, whenever there's a quarterback, ideally you want a receiver who's talented, playing well, has a good quarterback, doesn't have any weather issues, and in a good matchup. But there's some guys, and like Nico's one of them, where matchups, they're playing indoors, that's good, but the quarterback situation is dicey. But we do have some data with Davis Mills that shows that he and Nico are pretty good together.
Johnny with the $2 super chat. Thank you so much to Johnny for the support as well too. He's got 2 start sit questions. We have tight ends between Darren Waller and Dallas Goedert, and then a running back one between Swift or Achane. So we can just go in order here. Tight ends, Waller and Goedert. How do you feel about them?
Do we have a scoring system?
Oh, Johnny. Here, let me see if I can find. Johnny, if you've got a scoring system, you don't have to do another super chat. Just drop it in the regular chat. Does the scoring system matter for the running backs? I don't know if they do.
Probably not. No, I think Achane is the play.
Standard. Okay, now that does, so now that does affect the running backs, because I think I lean more Achane even more.
Oh,
because I feel like with Swift,
you
his
lean him
floor can
even
get
more?
bumped up. Yeah, because Swift, I feel like you can get there, kind of like what you were mentioning. Like if he gets 100 total yards and 3 or 4 receptions and stuff like that, and hopefully he falls into the end zone. But I feel like the touchdown equity is more on Achane. He's less reliant on receptions for fantasy scoring. So I think I lean a little bit more for Achane
I think he gives you a higher ceiling. He has multi-touchdown upside. We just haven't seen that with Swift. Maybe Swift gives you a higher floor because you just don't know how much Achane's going to play.
Right.
He's got that toe injury, but he did return to practice yesterday.
Yeah, he is expected to play. I got that FLA notification.
He's either been incredible or just kind of like last week he had 62 total yards. The week before 69 or 71 total yards, no touchdowns. So, but he had 5 catches, so he at least had 12 points PPR, but that's not what Johnny's worried about. And then, he had his 324 games with 21 plus, including a 51 point game. Just has that multi-touchdown upside that I don't think Swift has. So, yeah. He had 12 touches the last 2 weeks, so that's not too bad in terms of floor.
Yeah, I lean Achane for that one.
And then at tight end, what are your thoughts there?
I lean Waller. His usage in the first game back was super enticing against a rather poor Eagles secondary. So I would go with Waller in more of a catch-up situation than I would Goddard.
I have them both the same. I have Waller at 11. I have Goddard at 12. Waller's matchup looks better. Probably going to be the primary target.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one concern, he did come back off this long stretch of injury. He came back. He only played 42% of the snaps, and you did talk about his usage. He had 6 targets on those 42%. So hopefully he doesn't stay like at 50 or around there. Like they ramp him up to 70, 80%. Sure. And if that's the case, he could see 9, 10 targets, in a game where the Giants are expected to trail against a Eagles secondary that's just not very good. So I would lean Waller's way as well. I do feel like there is a bit of risk there if he only plays 42% of the snaps again. Goddard hasn't done a whole lot, right, since he's gotten back.
He's also been slow coming back from his own injury as well.
4 for 30 in back-to-back weeks, but he's playing 84% of the snaps. He just has a lot more target competition.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on the Devonta Smith injury. He didn't practice yesterday, so if he's out, I think I would probably bump Goddard up. But if Devonta plays, I think there's too much target competition for him, and I would go with Waller as well.
Boom. Here for the memes with the $10 super chat. He says he's back. Did you miss me? Absolutely, man. We appreciate you being back here, and thank you so much for the $10 super chat. He says that he needs some flex help here. I'm assuming that, he's got the starting lineup with Dak, Mostert, Barkley, Amon-Ra, Tyreek, Garrett Wilson, Kittle, Connor. And we got to pick one flex player out of Noah Brown, Christian Watson, Brian Robinson, Isaiah Likely, Deonta Foreman, or Zach Moss. I just got to think about Zach Moss too. I was trying to see.
I don't think he's practicing.
Not practicing for the second straight day.
Yeah. Jonathan Taylor's back too.
Okay, so let's eliminate Zach Moss.
It appears. If Taylor doesn't play and Moss somehow plays, then okay, then I would go with Moss out of this group. Brian Robinson doesn't look like he's going to play. Watson doesn't look like he's going to play. So as of right now, we can strike them out. So I think it's really between Noah Brown, Isaiah Likely, and Foreman maybe. We don't have a scoring system on this one either, do we?
I feel like this is PPR. Oh, okay. Dynasty full PPR. Start 3 wide receiver, 2 flex.
What does your gut tell you?
I lean Foreman because of the matchup, and he's been kind of working as the starter. And I mean, he might be the best running back in the Bears backfield. So I lean Foreman just for the touch floor I think that he's going to have. Likely would be my second option. It was basically between them. because of the target share that Likely has been receiving as well too. But I think I just go with Deonta Foreman.
I have him ranked Likely first, Brown second, and Foreman third. And the reason I have that is the Bears backfield I have no idea what they're going to end up doing, because last week Foreman started.
Yeah.
Stunk. He really stunk. The only player that played well was Roschon Johnson. And it is a great matchup. So I think one of the Bears running backs is going to be really good.
Right.
But I think it's probably good. I mean, I think Johnson probably, I don't know if he takes over. I mean, it's not like Foreman. It should be entrenched as the starter, like where he can just get through multiple bad games or a bad game and continue to start. He probably will have the first chance to go, but he also did miss practice yesterday due to personal reasons. So we don't know what's going on there. So I probably would avoid Foreman and just go with Likely. He's been playing really well.
I'm with it. In Foreman's defense, it was the Browns' defense last week. And Khalil Herbert had 8.
But Roschon played well. Like, if you look at Roschon's numbers,
Yeah.
He did well against that same team. So
Roschon gets there a lot through the receiving game as well, too. I mean, he had 36 rushing yards on 5 carries, but.
And what did Foreman have?
-6.
I mean,
negative.
At some point they're like, okay, well, let's just. I mean, we drafted this guy. I mean, I think Khalil Herbert deserves another crack at it, but
I think Foreman
at some point
is the best of that whole group.
I don't know.
All right, I'm in on Likely.
All right,
I'm with it. It was between the two of them, just because of what Likely has been doing since Mark Andrews has been out. And if you just want to not deal with the Bears backfield, which I don't blame you whatsoever, the matchup is just enticing to me. I feel like
I would go.
Get there.
I would have considered Noah Brown, but I had to move him down once I put Nico back in the projections. So he was actually my number 2 choice of these 3.
Yeah. The real answer might just be that Justin Fields is the big winner for the Cardinals matchup. That might be the actual answer. All right. Let me see where we left off here. Chris, T. Higgins, Ezekiel Elliott, James Conner, Drake London. We got to pick one of these guys for the flex position. And I feel like we're just going to pick Zeke.
This is
we don't have a scoring system.
I keep asking guys, put the scoring system in, because it makes a difference in these tight. See, Higgins is operating as the number 1
without Chase.
Yeah, I've got him at 50 in the flex rankings, 14 point projection. You said Ezekiel, which he might be because
they play Denver.
He has that. Yeah, he's at 22. And he's been really involved as a receiver too. So the PPR doesn't hurt him at all. So I lean, and I would say Connor, you can, he might end up having a good game, but the Bears, I think, have the lowest rushing yards per game allowed. So I'm worried about in general, I'm just worried about the Arizona offense. And then London, yeah, I would definitely start Higgins over London. So right. I would go with Zeke here first and then Higgins second. He only wants me to pick one.
Jelly of the Month says, happy holidays. Happy holidays to you as well. Half PPR league. We got to sit one guy between David Montgomery, Ty Chandler, Saquon Barkley, and Devon Achane. And then he's also noting for our ease of mind that Saquon and Achane are the late games. So I feel like the answer to me would be Ty Chandler against Detroit. Even if Madison is out. I know I looked at your rankings earlier and I saw that you have Madison really high.
Or Chandler.
Or Chandler.
Chandler really high, yeah.
You have Chandler.
I got him in the top 10. I would absolutely start Ty Chandler. I think even with Madison playing, which is what I think that means what he's saying there is assuming Madison is playing. Because as of right now, he's out of practice. I can check right now, see if anything happened today.
Yeah, but he missed Wednesday and Thursday. I haven't seen a FLA come through. Oh, dude, I saw an Arthur Smith. Dang it, I saw an Arthur Smith FLA, and I saw a 5-letter F word that said the Falcons have blanked head coach Arthur Smith, and it said fined. I thought it said fired. Dang it.
So they basically, Kevin O'Connell basically came out and said that even if Madison they said he's going to work his way back to rejoining practice, which that doesn't mean anything to me. But he goes, even if he's back, he said that they were going to he'd have a featured role. Ty Chandler would. So I really like him. I think this Lions defense is bad. They're better against the run than they are against the pass, but they've given up a bunch of 100-yard games against the run as well. So I'm definitely starting Chandler here. You're saying sit Chandler of these four. I would sit Montgomery because the Vikings defense has played really well, and he's splitting time with Jahmyr Gibbs. They're more vulnerable to pass catching backs, and he might get there as a receiver. But I think I would go Chandler, Saquon, and Achane in this one.
The choice for me was between Chandler and Montgomery.
And I would. I don't usually fight people on rankings. Like I don't like try to talk people out of rankings.
No,
like if you want to start,
you're a big Chandler guy.
if you want to fight, if you want to start Montgomery over Chandler, I would normally say, yeah, go ahead. But I really think Ty Chandler after last week against Cincy has a similar matchup at home. Should be a high scoring game. I think Chandler has a good one.
I'll listen to Paulsen. I mean, I was all in on Chandler last week too, but I'm more skeptical this week.
Why?
I don't mind. I'm a little bit more scared of the Lions defense than the Bengals defense.
They've given up like 28 points, and what was it?
They gave up 28 to Kamara because he scored twice, but they only allowed 50 rushing yards to him, also 50 receiving yards, and they gave up 21 points to Austin Eckler. Again, basically the same thing.
Oh, let me just read off the points allowed to the opponents since the bye. 38 to the Chargers, 26 to the Bears, 29 to the Packers, 28 to the Saints, 28 to the Bears, and then the only good game under 20 was Broncos 17 at home in that game where they worked them over. But this is at Minnesota. I think Minnesota scores another 25 to 30 points. So you think Chandler would have a good game if that happens, right?
Probably.
I mean, Montgomery's got a good chance at a rushing touchdown. I mean, I grant you that. I just think that the Vikings defense is a lot better than the Lions defense at this point.
Aaron in the PPR needs a flex spot. Go with Ty Chandler. Play him. Aaron needs a flex spot in a full PPR league out of Tyler Lockett, Josh Jacobs, and Ezekiel Elliott. I feel like normally I would just say go with Josh Jacobs, but do you trust him coming back from injury over Zeke, who has been great in a featured role against Denver?
I would go with the matchup play, which is Denver. They're last in the league in rushing yards allowed. 147 per game, 5.2 yards per attempt allowed. Jacobs, I'm a little worried about. When I plugged him back in, just looking at this game, the Chiefs, he could get game scripted out of this. You know, they might dump him off. He might dump it off to him and have a few catches, but I don't know that he's going to get his usual 15 to 20 plus carries.
Yeah,
he did have a good game in the first one against KC, week 12. That was at Vegas though, 110 yards and a touchdown. I
lean Zeke though.
I would go with Zeke.
Luke needs one wide receiver, one running back, and one flex from Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson, Raheem Mostert, Rashee Rice, Brandon Ayuk, and DK Metcalf. Holy crap.
This is good. This is painful.
I'm picking Mostert. I wish I could play Taylor or Bijan, but I'm honestly, I might pick Taylor as my flex anyway. And tell me why I shouldn't pick Rashee Rice as my wide receiver. Tell me, Paulsen.
I know his snaps are now to the point where I'm way up on him now.
Hey, remember a couple weeks ago I said he was going to have an AJ Brown like end of year.
You did. I didn't know it. I mean, it's just not AJ Brown though. He's still not doing AJ Brown numbers, but yes, he's having a very good finish to the year. Good job, Addison.
Thank you.
I don't know what scoring system this is either.
Oh,
unless he added it.
Just go with the PPR.
So I think I'm really high on Jonathan Taylor if he's back. It's a thumb injury, so I don't think that it's like a hamstring or something where they're going to try to limit his touches if he's healthy. Plus Zach Moss is out, so they might give Tyler Goodson or Trey Sermon a few carries, but I think it's going to be Jonathan Taylor. He's my highest running back of this group, and then it's Bijan and then Mostert. And the reason that is Mostert has multi-touchdown upside for sure, but he has not been very involved as a receiver with Achane. So in PPR, he drops way down because he's only got, he had 2 catches last week for 1 yard, 1 catch for 4 yards the week before, 1 catch for 8 yards the week before, 0 catches the week before, 1 catch for 7 yards the week before that. So from a PPR standpoint, he takes a hit, even though he's got 2 touchdowns in 3 of the last 4 games. You can't count on that, but he does. I mean, he's got 8. I mean, Raheem Mostert has 18 touchdowns.
Yes.
Rushing. Yeah. And he has 2 receiving touchdowns. I didn't even realize that. He's got 20 touchdowns.
This year's Jamal Williams. Yeah, he is insane.
I think that's the tough thing, is because you are kind of giving up on that upside.
I trust the multi-touchdown upside in a game with Tyreek Hill back. I trust the Dolphins offense to move the ball against Dallas more than I trust Arthur Smith giving Bijan Robinson the ball.
You know what? I think I agree with that. So would you start Mostert and Taylor?
Yep.
Sit Bijan, and then when you'd start Rice?
I think Rice is my wide receiver.
I think I would go with Metcalf, but I wouldn't. I've got Metcalf at 10.5 PPR. I've got Rice at 13, and I've got Ayuk at 14. That's a tough one.
Rice is, if it's a full PPR league too. I mean, Rashee Rice has gotten like 8+ receptions in like 3 or 4 straight games. Like he is Deontay Johnson with touchdown upside. I should say like the past couple of years, Deontay Johnson, because he's just like 8 for 80 in a touchdown. I think last week he was 9 for 100 in a touchdown. I mean, it's just
his recent game log is
it's so
strong.
Good. And now he's starting to see
9 for 91 in a touchdown, 7 for 72 in a touchdown, 84% snaps 2 weeks ago, 92% snaps last week against the Patriots.
Sky Moore is out. Kadarius Toney sucks and lines up offsides.
I can go along with it. Let's see what DK has been doing.
DK is Ayuk too.
Yeah, I mean Ayuk has been kind of overshadowed by Debo lately.
Mm-hmm.
DK 5 for 78 against Philly, 2 for 52 and a touchdown against San Francisco. Tough matchup. 6 for 134 and 3 touchdowns against Dallas. I mean, I think he gives you the higher ceiling. Would you agree with that?
I think so. Yeah, pure ceiling.
Maybe a lower floor than Rice.
Yeah.
So we'll agree on Taylor, Mostert, and then Rice if you want some floor at receiver. DK maybe if you want ceiling.
If you need the explosive ceiling.
Like you just Tennessee game
or something like that.
That could be a weird game against Tennessee.
Isn't it in Tennessee as well?
Yeah.
See,
what does that mean?
All roads point to Rashee Rice. Seattle's got to travel across the country. It's Rashee Rice.
It's not that far. Let's see what the weather is in KC. Let's take a look at that. Everybody else is like, shut up and answer my question.
I know, right?
No problem. Weather's fine in Tennessee and KC. 40 degrees, 78% chance of rain, wind 17 miles per hour. So a little dicey there, weather. Keep an eye on that. All right, next question.
I don't have issues.
Good luck, Wookie.
Right for days. Rob with the $5 super chat. Thank you so much for the super chat, Rob. He's asking for a tight end, should he go with Hunter Henry if he plays, or he also has Tucker Kraft, and then mentions that he is also starting the Broncos defense. New England plays Denver.
Yeah. I wouldn't worry about that. I would play Henry if he plays. He's been good the last couple of weeks with Bailey Zappi. Denver is 28th in adjusted fantasy points allowed to tight ends. Kraft has been good and could see even more work. But Carolina is the number one in the league. Fewest fantasy points, adjusted fantasy points allowed to tight ends. As I said earlier, I don't like this game environment for Jordan Love in the passing game. He could see some extra work, but I would go with Hunter Henry in a much softer matchup.
Henry had 9 targets last week.
Kraft?
Henry,
yeah.
But Kraft has had 6+ over the past 3 weeks.
I'm actually pretty bullish on this. This Packer, if they can get everybody healthy, this young receiving core is looking pretty good. You got Musgrave and Kraft, and then all these receivers.
And Jordan Love's future Hall of Famer.
He's definitely not terrible.
Nope. Better than Kenny Pickett. I like the Hunter Henry play as well too, but I do think that Tucker Kraft is also a solid play.
If you have to. If Henry doesn't play, then Kraft is a streamer.
Yep. Thank you for the super chat, Rob. Hopefully you move on to next week. Donna, pick 3. Pollard, Hall, Walker, Addison, or Deontay. We don't have a scoring system. I would go Walker might not play.
Kenneth Walker?
Pollard, I saw something with Kenneth Walker's. Was he not practicing? Yeah, he didn't practice yesterday. Shoulder injury.
I mean, that's not too alarming on a Thursday, but today would be.
Pollard and Hall are locks for me. They're 2 of the 3. I'm trying to see if we have an FLA, anything about Kenneth Walker.
You said Pollard and Hall?
Yep. Those 2 are locks for me.
I mean, I would go Walker over Hall in half PPR, but I think in full PPR, I would go with Hall. He's been catching a ton of passes. So I would go with the 3 running backs.
That's basically where I leaned, but I was trying to come up with a contingency plan in case Walker for some reason didn't play.
I think then you just look at
I go to Addison.
Receiver do you want? And we don't know the scoring system, but I've got Addison at 23 half PPR. I've got Deontay at 26 and half PPR. Both matchups are good. Addison obviously coming off the 2 touchdown game. Looks like he's got a pretty good rapport with Mullins. I would lean his way just because I think there probably be more points scored in that Detroit Vikings game. So I would go with the 3 running backs and then Addison if you have to plug him in for Walker.
That's my plan. Cameron, if Trevor Lawrence doesn't play, his super flex spot is looking bleak. Would you roll with Mason Rudolph in the spirit of Christmas or Bailey Zappi? He said that he also could throw in a skill player like Antonio Gibson, Tyjae Spears, or Gus Edwards.
PPR.
If you like any of those guys. Yeah, a full PPR.
Spirit of Christmas. I like it. What are your...
Eileen Zappi. I'm like the most pessimistic Steelers fan in the entire world. Eileen Zappi.
He has been, Zappi's been competent. We don't know what Mason Rudolph will do. He's got the better matchup against Cincinnati. I've got him a couple spots higher. But you said full PPR, so let me look at these other guys that
In Rudolph's defense, he has nothing to lose, and he's just going to go out there and throw. Like, I don't think he really cares.
Rudolph equates to like Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson, and it's funny because they're both Steelers, but in the rankings, Superflex rankings. So I don't think Spears. Gus Edwards is interesting.
Without Keaton.
Yeah.
Against the Niners, though, Monday night.
Yeah.
I think Spears is the best of the three skill players. But I agree with you. I think I would rather roll the dice with a quarterback and hope that they get like 200 and a touchdown or two. And maybe Rudolph is actually the better play for that. If you're trying to just hope for stats.
I would say I would agree with you. Now that you're on the Rudolph side, I think I'll go with Rudolph, given the matchup against Cincinnati. That could be kind of a sneaky high-scoring game.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Steeler defense isn't that great either. I wanted to mention something on Gus Edwards, so let me see. After J.K. Dobbins went out week 1, before Keaton Mitchell came in week 9, Gus Edwards averaged 14.8 touches per game from week 2 to week 8. He averaged 72 total yards and 0.71 touchdowns per game and was the fantasy RB 12 and half PPR in that span. The 49ers rush defense has sprung a few leaks. Since week 12, they've given up an average of 117 total yards, 5.06 yards per carry, and a half touchdown on average to opposing backfields. That's from my Sneaky Starts article. So I would also go based on the projections with Rudolph, because I think you try to play a quarterback. I love the Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer in the Christmas spirit. Like, you could just, that could be a story for you. Even if you flame out, then you can blame it on Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, or whatever, and Santa. But if you wanted to go with a running back, I think I would go with Gus Edwards. I think he does have a chance to outscore one of these or both of these quarterbacks.
Question asking for a friend who has Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, and Gus Edwards. Would you play? Who's the pick of the three of those?
What were the three again?
Jacobs, Aaron Jones, and Gus.
I would go with Aaron Jones. The Panthers matchup is really soft. I also would like to mention here that I think Cameron might be surprised that Trevor Lawrence plays.
That's true. You might not have to worry about this whatsoever. Trevor Lawrence might just play.
Let's see, when is Jacksonville?
When do they play?
When do they play?
Lawrence practiced today too, by the way. He's still in the protocol, yes, but he practiced.
He's still in the protocol. I think he's trending towards playing now, which is surprising because he got concussed last week. They play Sunday. That's the issue, though. Rudolph plays Saturday. So in that case, I probably would like this adds a wrinkle, right? When does Denver play?
Yeah, when does Denver
play Sunday night?
Play? Okay.
So this is what I probably do, since I think if things still are progressing with Trevor Lawrence, I would wait for him and then play Zappy if
Sunday night.
Yeah, if Lawrence can't play, Baltimore is my other option there, and they play
Monday.
They play Monday. You have a backup plan if you didn't want to go with Zappy. That's what I do. I think Lawrence is trending towards playing.
Yeah, you can't play Mason Rudolph on the 23rd. You know, that's not Christmas time enough.
You can't set your lineup by Christmas spirit stuff. Don't ever do that. I'd take away what I said before. You got to wait for Trevor Lawrence against Tampa. Oh,
yep.
That would be a Christmas miracle for you, Cameron.
That would be. Monty's wondering if he's going too far out on a limb and playing Nick Mullins over Jared Goff, Gardner Minshew, and Joe Flacco. I don't think it's too far out on a limb, but I don't know if I would do it.
I pulled Jared. I did. What'd you say? Say that again.
I said Flacco's enticing just because of the volume.
To the volume.
Yeah.
Goff. I pulled some Goff stats because he has been a lot better indoors, and a lot of that is playing at home.
Right.
But I'm trying to vamp here as I'm looking for my stats. But he's been excellent at home. Let's see if I can find it.
Yeah, I think personally I would play Flacco over Mullins. I haven't really considered Minshew in this equation. So Goff is he's so hit or miss. I feel like I would just go with Joe Flacco. Solid matchup against Houston, passing the ball 45 to 50 times.
I don't hate it. I would go with Goff. His passing lines in his indoor games this season: 323 and 3 touchdowns, 1 interception against Seattle at home, 243 and 1 touchdown, 1 interception versus Atlanta, 236 and 3 versus Carolina at home, 271 1-1 versus Vegas. On the road, Chargers 333 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. At home against Chicago, 236, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. At home versus Green Bay, 332 and 2. That was actually a pretty bad matchup against Green Bay. At New Orleans, 213 and 2, and then at home against Denver, 278 and 5. So he's averaging in these dome games 274, 2.33 touchdowns, 0.67 interceptions, and he's averaging, so that's 20.2 fantasy points per game. He's averaging 12.3 fantasy points per game outdoors. I would go with Goff. I don't think it's crazy to go with Mullins over Goff, but I would go with Goff.
I like it. High takes. Happy Friday. How would you trade Stroud or Herbert for Caleb Williams? Oh, a dynasty question. I didn't even realize that when I clicked it. No, I would not. We've seen Stroud. We've seen Herbert. We have not seen Caleb Williams in the NFL. Pretty simple. I don't know. Do you have anything to add on that, or you're not in the rookie spirit yet?
Who do you rank higher, Herbert or Stroud?
Herbert.
Oh, interesting.
But Stroud would, I mean, they're probably both in the same tier. We're talking like Herbert's probably my QB 5. And Stroud's probably
He's
my
QB
6 or 7.
Herbert is QB 4 at DLF, and Stroud is QB 7.
It just depends.
I just was wondering.
Burrow is in there too, and Lamar. They're all in there. I would take all of those guys over Caleb Williams. Spock in a standard non-PPR league. Holy crap. Okay, this is off-season moves for Dynasty. Spock, if you throw this and I'll say this in for everybody else for the Dynasty side, we're going to try and rapid fire some start sits to help people win some semifinals this week. If you have Dynasty questions like that, throw them in the replay of this, and I will go in depth with you on those. So I think we're just going to try to rapid fire some start sits and get through as many as we can here for this. So Matt in a half PPR league needs 3 out of ETN, Henry, Achane, Chandler, and Chuba. Ooh. So we got to sit 2 of these guys.
Half PPR.
All 5 of them are great plays.
I know you want to sit Chandler, don't you?
No. Kind of. And I kind of want to sit Chuba. And I kind of want to sit Achane just because he doesn't have the touch volume or the snap volume of the others. But he is a home run hitter. Oh my goodness. I trust ETN the most, I think, out of all these guys.
You do.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, he's got the worst matchup. Tampa is number 1 in adjusted fantasy points allowed to running back. So he's at 17 in my half PPR running back rankings. However, that might change again if Trevor Lawrence is, because their team total is going to go up. I've got Chandler first, Henry at 11. Chandler at 9, Henry at 11, ETN at 17, Achane at 18, Hubbard at 19. So to me, I don't think you can sit Derrick Henry against the 28th. Seattle's 28th in just fantasy points allowed to running backs. I think he'll have a bounce back game. I wouldn't sit Chandler at this point. So I probably would go Chandler, Henry, and ETN or Achane, depending on if I wanted upside. I think Hubbard gives you a nice floor. because he's like got like the second most touches in the last 4 weeks or something ridiculous.
Yeah,
and he's got a good matchup too. I think it's with Achane, it's really are you worried about the floor? Because there's so much variance there with him.
I can get on board with Etienne, Henry, and Chandler as the 3, and then hold on to the other 2 and keep them away from your opponent, so then they can't play them against you. I don't think you can necessarily make a bad decision, but I agree. Like Henry has 2 touchdown upside, like 100. He can go for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns this week. I know last week sucked, and you might feel lucky that you got through last week with Derrick Henry in your starting lineup. But I'm going right back.
Maybe didn't start him. Yeah,
maybe that's true.
And I would say if you do want to start Achane and get that upside, then I would probably bench Etienne, banking on the matchup against Tampa, since they are number 1 in adjusted fantasy points allowed to running backs. Sure. So they are the worst matchup for a running back.
We got pick 2 for Enzo out of Pittman, Rice, Breece Hall, and Zeke Elliott. Oh no.
What is the scoring system? Because Hall, if it's PPR, then I probably would go with Hall and Rice. And if it's half PPR, I would go with Elliott and Rice. Pittman is just, I'm a little worried about him coming back with that concussion.
All I heard was Rashee Rice was your answer for both of those. That's it. Yes, I will follow Paulsen on this one. Where we got Wake, full PPR, Nico, McLaurin, Lockett, and Kyler, or Flacco, 4-point QB, and Brown. Oh my goodness. So these are 3 different sets of questions. So wide receiver between Nico, McLaurin, and Lockett. I'd lean McLaurin. I like Lockett though too. I just his usage has been so weird. And granted, McLaurin's usage has also been weird. And really
the tough thing about McLaurin is the Jets. It's the matchup.
Yeah. I'm going with Kyler.
Wait, I
was trying to move on and see if I could figure out if we have good answers for these other ones.
All right. I lean Lockett due to matchup. I think Nico is interesting. I would have McLaurin as my 3rd option amongst the receivers, given the matchup against the Jets. I definitely factor in matchups significantly. Collins might move up. And he would be, you would think, the number 1 receiver there for Houston, whereas we're not sure if Lockett's number 2 or number 3. So my dog is dreaming in the background, by the way. So if you hear him yelping in his sleep. And then you're going with Kyler over Flacco?
Yep.
That one made me pause because I am really worried about this Arizona offense at Chicago.
For me, it's the rushing.
I think it's ceiling for Kyler, whereas Flacco gives you a nice floor.
Oh, that might be the answer. The contingency. What do you need more of?
Yeah.
Okay. I like that one.
Browns
or Broncos?
The Broncos. I think it's Broncos.
Against New England, probably.
Browns are really good, though. They're at 8. Broncos are at 4. Home game versus a road game is a big one there. Plus, you have the outdoors versus dome. It just puts the defense at more of a. They still should do well against Davis Mills, though. I mean, both quarterbacks are bad.
Right. And you've got New England traveling the opposite way.
I would lean Broncos. But keep an eye on that Nico Lockett ranking if you are a subscriber, because I may upgrade Nico after looking at that yards per attempt from Davis Mills last year.
Jesse said that he played Cooper Kupp last night and he was not Cooper Kupp. He also has Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb in his lineup right now. But considering that he might need a little bit more upside, would you plug in Achane or Breece Hall with? Oh wait, I skipped over the question. Green lights, or should I plug in Waddle or Ayuk instead of Justin Jefferson?
I would go with Justin Jefferson.
I would also go with Justin Jefferson. And then the second part was thoughts on Achane or Hall to replace Chandler. Are you team Chandler?
This is full PPR.
Yep.
So this might be Breece Hall, although I think just considering, I think Breece Hall actually might give you a higher floor in PPR because of his pass catching. He might have the lower ceiling because you just don't think the Jets are going to score a lot of touchdowns, whereas you could see, I mean, would it shock you if Ty Chandler had 2 touchdowns?
Slightly. But I'm not as in on Ty Chandler this week as you. Breece Hall gets Washington, and prior to last week had 6+ receptions in 3 consecutive games, 5+ in 4 consecutive. Last week was just such a weird game against Miami that if you like, I'm kind of just throwing that out for the most part, and everything like I would play Hall.
It says thoughts on Achane and Hall or replace with Chandler. So I think you can start 2 of these 3. Would you start Chandler over Achane?
Oh yes, I probably would.
So I think we're in agreement. We would go with Chandler and Hall, and that's due to the touch floor.
Yes.
And then Achane is like, if you want to, roll the dice and you feel like you have to get a 40 burger or 35 burger.
Right. Because, I mean, just because Kupp didn't have that great of a game, if you didn't play against Puka or, anybody last night, you might not need the massive ceiling. Like you might just need to make up a few extra points, which those extra points might be made up by Hall's receiving or Chandler's just complete dominance of the backfield. Or by Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb. Both those guys can go off as well too. All right. We good there?
Yep.
Cameron says that we need to start 2 of these guys in a PPR between Javonte, Swift, and Zeke. So just pick one odd man out.
Javonte is my odd man out this week.
It's Javonte.
His touches were down a little bit last week, and New England is 4th in adjusted fantasy points allowed to running backs. Swift has a better matchup, and Ezekiel has a lot better matchup.
Javonte is out. I wanted to answer this one Dynasty question because it was fun. A late second in Alexander Mattison for Tyjae Spears. This is exactly the kind of trade that I want to buy Tyjae. This is adding a late second round pick to a running back who might not have a job next year for a running back that could be the starter in Tennessee. Love it. I'm all aboard this. Philip, full PPR, Godwin or Aaron Jones? You mentioned Aaron Jones was the start for my friend in his situation. Are you playing him over Godwin this week?
I think so.
Is AJ Dillon playing?
I don't think he's going to play.
I don't think he's.
If he does, that would definitely change. It would change the ranking for Aaron Jones if he does play. But Aaron Jones is at 28 with a projection of 15.2. Fantastic matchup against Carolina. They also might have trouble throwing the ball. So there's that. And then Godwin had a good game last week, but he's projection at 12.7. He's at 58 in the PPR flex rankings. He could have a good one against Jacksonville. I mean, it's a pass funnel, and he's coming off the good game. But I think I would go with AJ Jones or Aaron Jones, not AJ Jones.
The power of AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones combined, and you get. I would go with Aaron Jones as well too.
Wow.
The Domino FX. I got it. I'm on board. I had to break down the username. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. He's asking Lamar or Flacco this week. Pretty simple question, but may not be a simple answer.
We've gotten maybe a little too far with the Joe Flacco stuff. I still got to go Lamar.
Yeah.
He's at 6. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, how do you get to week 16 and then just bench Lamar for Joe Flacco?
Yeah.
It's Lamar Jackson. Yeah. Thank you for the super chat. And I guess we'll go at this point. We'll try to rapid fire some more of these quick start sits, but easiest way, if you really have a question, is just to drop that super chat, but we'll go for just a couple more minutes here and see if we can get a few more answers. Philip again in a 2 PPR tight end premium. Evan Ingram or Brandon Ayuk or George Kittle. Oh my goodness. I might go Evan Ingram here, assuming that Trevor Lawrence plays.
Wow.
Dude, 2 PPR for tight ends is insane.
Yeah. It's something. Ingram is at, and I'm just going to do PPR. Then I'm going to add an extra point for
your projected receptions.
Yeah. So Evan Ingram's at 10.5 plus 5.7. So 16.2. Kittle is at 11.5 and adding 4.1. So 15.6. So Ingram right now over Kittle, and this doesn't even assume Lawrence yet. And then Ayuk 14.6. So yeah, I think I lean Ingram here.
Zay's not playing, right?
Zay was we're not sure if he's out.
Not expected to play in week 16. That was an hour ago per CBS.
Probably not play week 16. Okay.
Hopefully Trevor Lawrence in, Zay Jones out, Christian Kirk's already out. Oh.
I mean, if Zay Jones is out and Trevor Lawrence plays, I got to do a Lawrence, Ridley, Ingram stack against Bucks.
Tampa. Yep.
Yeah.
Dino need 2, Pollard, Achane, or Montgomery. So odd man out on this one.
Montgomery, I would sit Montgomery in this one.
Pick 1 for PPR between Aaron Jones, Chuba, James Conner, and Zeke. Oh man, you going back to Jones, or are you playing Zeke? I think I trust Zeke a little bit more.
I think Zeke. Hubbard's got a good workload.
Mm-hmm.
In PPR, though, I've got Elliott at 13, Jones at 17, Hubbard at 20, and then Connor's not a factor in this question this week.
Kyle with the $2 super chat. Thank you so much, Kyle. Kyler or Baker this week? Baker got him. Baker might have gotten him here. Do you go back to the well after his game last week?
I have Baker ahead by a slight margin. Baker's my QB 11 this week against Jacksonville. Great matchup. Yeah.
I like it. I'm on board with it. I play Baker over Kyler. Oh yeah. So Dino said he was looking for upside. This is for the Pollard and Achane and Monty one. So yeah, I think you're definitely
Pollard and Achane. Yeah.
Out. Yeah.
I mean, he has upside, but it's touchdown upside, and I don't know how many touchdowns he'll have against the Vikings. The Vikings defense has been playing pretty well. I mean, since he had a good game, but
could be more of a Gibbs week. PPR London or Austin Eckler? Man, this one's wild. This would have been Austin Eckler easily like 3 weeks ago.
It's really sad.
I think I still play Eckler though. I don't like it.
13.2 is the projection for Eckler, 11.5 for London. So I lean Eckler too, but this assumes, 14, 15 touches for Eckler. And we don't know. I mentioned this on the pod with Dago, is we don't know, what are the Chargers thinking long-term here? Are they trying to get Isaiah Spiller a look because Eckler's a free agent and they're not planning to re-sign him? So why would they give him touches? Are they just trying to evaluate Spiller for next year? So that's my concern. But I'm a worrier. I worry about everything, and most of it doesn't, as Tom Petty says, most things I worry about never happen anyway. But I worry about the stuff when I do the rankings. You look at what they did last week, and he had 9 touches in a fantastic matchup. Couldn't do anything against Vegas. And then he had 15 and 16 the 2 previous weeks. And I've got him projected for 14, 15 right now. And he's really low in the rankings because, he's usually around 20 or, a higher yardage guy. Had a good game against Denver 2 weeks ago, and then they just basically handed the keys. He played 40%. Eckler played 40% of the snaps against Vegas, and they gave Spiller 16 carries. So I'm worried that this is he's going to be a sub 10 touch guy. What do you think?
So you would,
the projections still say Eckler. I'm just saying the downside here is pretty significant. Not that London is this great play, because I think he's 28th. He's 28th in my half PPR rankings.
London doesn't inspire a bunch of confidence either.
Right. The floors are low for both players. I still would go with Eckler, I think.
I'd be curious to know if there's people on the waivers that you could potentially get as well. Maybe somebody is sneaky, like a Demarcus Robinson kind of play. I don't know if there's anybody out there like that. That would be interesting, but
I think I would start
Wicks. Would you play Wicks over either one of these two?
No, I would play London over Wicks. I mean, I like Wicks, but this is not a good pass. As I said, the Panthers they're not a good team to pass against. So I don't think there's a good waiver wire guy to add unless it's a weird league. I think it's between these two, and I would still lean Eckler because it's Eckler, but I'm worried about the touches and his rest of season touches because of what they did. They just out of the blue gave Spiller all these carries.
Yeah,
they're out of the playoff hunt, right? So
yep,
they fired their coach.
I lean Eckler as well too, but if you get through and Eckler has another bad week and it is another week of Spiller, then you're probably sitting Eckler next week then too.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
How did we get here?
It's crazy how quickly things go downhill for running backs. But Joe, in a PPR, we got to choose 2 out of Pacheco, Garrett Wilson, Ty Chandler, Devon Achane. So we need 2 odd men out.
I think I'm going Pacheco and Chandler
as your 2 starts.
Yeah. I'm going to double check that though.
Who is the quarterback for New York this week?
Simeon.
Is it Simeon? Okay.
Yeah. I think Pacheco comes back to his usual workload, or close to it. So I've got him at 19 and flex. What? He's supposed to play.
I was wondering if McKinnon's supposed to play.
Oh, McKinnon?
Yeah. McKinnon didn't practice today either, so no McKinnon.
Oh, okay. I don't think it matters a whole lot, but it would help if he's out.
It's a
Pacheco at 19 in the flex rankings, Ty Chandler at 20, and then Achane at 24. So those 3 are pretty close. I don't think Garrett Wilson this week is. I think he's a fine play, he's okay, but I don't think he's in the same category as these 3. I mean, I think I would go Pacheco and Chandler. I think if Madison were back, I might go Achane over Chandler, but probably not. I mean, Achane has the ceiling.
If you played against Puka last night, would you play Achane?
Maybe. I mean, I think Chandler has a lot of upside too. He's fast.
Mm-hmm.
He had a huge game last week.
I'm with Pacheco for sure. I'm with Chandler as well. It's just, when do you start to consider Achane? At what point? But yeah. Grant needs tight end help. Hunter Henry, Dalton Schultz, Gerald Everett. I feel Dalton Schultz.
I would go Henry if he plays, and then I would go Everett after him if he doesn't. Schultz's quarterback situation, plus Nico's back. It's a bad matchup against the Browns, so I would just dispute you on that one.
Paulsen wins every dispute. Go with his rankings. Sometimes I just spew stuff out. Let's see. Big Trev needs a PPR flex. Ferguson, Thielen, Cooks, Warren, or Ramondre?
Ramondre. I don't think he's going to play.
Ramondre if he plays. Yeah, I kind of tossed him out. I might play Ferguson.
He hates
flexing tight ends, though.
I got Ferguson at 79, Thielen at 80, Cooks at 87.
Jalen Warren.
Warren is interesting. Jalen Warren is the highest. He's at 54. Nice matchup against Cincy.
Against Cincy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Warren might be a better play than Ferguson. And especially if you hate flexing tight ends, Warren might get you double-digit points in full PPR without even scoring too. Ferguson probably needs to score to get to double digits, or else he'll be at like 8 or 9. Like he can be like 4 for 40 or 4 for 50. And I like the Warren play. If Jacobs plays, would you start Josh Palmer or Josh Jacobs? Which Josh do you prefer? I prefer Josh Jacobs.
Probably Jacobs.
Touch floor. Palmer plays Buffalo, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Easton
I got
stick.
Jacobs. I don't love Josh Jacobs this week, but you're still looking at 15, 18 touches. So, and he has upside.
Man, I feel like we answered a bunch of Flacco, but how do you feel about Flacco or Geno in a super flex?
I'm a little nervous about Geno. I have him slightly ahead of Flacco right now, but I could see having him below by Sunday. I'm just thinking about this groin injury, and Flacco's been pretty steady.
I would go Flacco.
And he's saying, Flacco over Nico, right? And Superflex?
Yep.
Yeah.
Kyler or Baker? Did we answer that one already?
Baker, yeah.
Yes, we did. Yeah, Baker. And then there were a couple in here. Zeke or Barkley?
Zeke.
I think it's Zeke.
Philly's a tough matchup for running backs. Barkley's great, but Ezekiel Elliott has a great matchup against Denver.
They're both going to get the same volume. Go with the matchup. Garrett Wilson or Sam Howell in a super flex? I'd go with Sam Howell. I don't like Howell's matchup at all this week. I would really love to avoid playing him, but I would play him over Garrett Wilson.
Did you say this is PPR? We don't know.
I'm not sure.
Garrett. I have Garrett Wilson slightly ahead of Sam Howell.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's so hard for me to play a positional
receiver
skill player over a quarterback in Superflex, especially when that quarterback or that wide receiver is on his like fourth quarterback on the year. I would play
great matchup though. Washington 31st adjusted fantasy points allowed to receivers. Great matchup. Howell's got a terrible matchup. I see it. It's not separate. I mean, they're separated by 0.7 points, so it's not like a strong take. But maybe Howell's got more upside. If he has a good game and 250 and 2, he's definitely going to outscore
Wilson. Yeah,
Wilson in that situation. So,
Eesh.
Slightly concerned he gets benched again. I don't know. It's just a terrible matchup against the Jets. All right, we better wrap up. What do we got?
Did you drop Aaron Rodgers for Flacco?
Yeah. Rodgers isn't going to play.
That was the last one. I saw it. I was like,
a joke?
What we're ending on. Yes, I would pick up Joe Flacco and drop Aaron Rodgers, assuming that this is not a dynasty league. I don't think it is. Or a keeper league. You're probably not keeping Aaron Rodgers in a keeper league anyway. I would pick up Flacco.
I do see leaving out saying Lawrence a coin flip to play with a concussion ? I think it's better than a coin flip is the quote. So I think he's trending up. I just wanted to mention that.
All right. I'm sorry to anybody that did not get their question answered. If you drop a comment in the replay of this on either the 4for4 or the DLF side, we'll be sure to answer it. But we appreciate everybody for hanging out with us for the past hour and a half, basically. Hopefully you guys win all of your matchups this week for the semis, move on to championship week next week. We might have a schedule adjustment next Friday. Not sure if this will go at noon, but we should go on Friday, right? It will still be Friday, just might not be noon.
Yeah, my son has a basketball tournament next week, so we don't know our game times on Thursday or Friday yet, so we just will have to work around that because I don't miss his games. Family before fantasy.
Take that, people. But yeah, we will still be here next Friday. It just whenever the stream gets posted, it'll show what time it is. So it might not be noon Eastern time, or it might still be noon Eastern time. But just a quick note on that one. But yeah, hopefully everybody has a fantastic week. Hopefully you guys win your matchups, move on to championship week next week, and we'll try to help you out to secure a championship next Friday. Hope you all have a fantastic weekend, a fantastic Christmas or holiday, however you guys spend this weekend. And enjoy the football, enjoy family, enjoy friends, all that stuff. And we'll catch you guys next week. Later.